Shia LaBeouf's just a unique, eclectic dude.
So unique. I ran into him as if I'm like, hey man, at Air One.
Really?
And he was just walking the parking lot.
Yeah.
Just hanging.
Just not caring.
Not
He's just
caring.
Like,
That's what I love. I love the not care.
Yeah.
It is actually really refreshing.
It's unreal.
We're in a place where people care a lot about, just interesting, sometimes silly things. And it's very refreshing to see people not care.
Yeah.
In a kind way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. In a unique way. But I think I see him in Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy. Or Peanut Butter Falcon really had the jorts and this like cool, just like dirty style. And I was like, that's so inspiring. Like, I just don't want to care. Like, I kind of want to just be dirty and like
I love it.
Sleep outside. So that's been my inspiration the last week when I was living in the desert. Mm-hmm. And so this is the longest I've ever had my beard.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks good.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like it.
I've never had this. I was in Africa once for like 3 weeks without a mirror or electricity. And this was it almost got this long. And I remember seeing myself being like, holy shit. And now this is, I'm going for it. So I think I'm just going to go for it. All right, guys, welcome back to the Pursuing Purpose podcast. I'm your host, BC Serna. I'm so excited to be here right now. And this is a podcast where we pursue conversations and ideas and people's stories about purpose and what it means to live for something bigger or greater, or to kind of take ourselves away from the social, cultural constructions of anxiety and depression on an all-time high. And when you really take a step back and go, wow, this is something bigger going on, and what is my role in it? It helps kind of turn those knobs down. And in a society where we're so focused on ourselves, those are all peaking right now. And so I love to have these conversations with people. And I've been doing this for a long time now, just doing podcasts with it. And I'm so excited for my host today, Lindsey. We go back.
When did we meet? We met at that video shoot where you and Perry were shooting something for almost 30.
Right. We were interviewing you about Almost 30, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because there was someone doing a women's empowerment video, and me and Perry, we interviewed you guys.
Yeah, and I was like, I just want to hang with these dudes.
Yeah.
You guys are cool.
I remember that. And I remember
I don't want to talk about myself anymore.
Wow, that is crazy. I didn't think that just till now. Yeah, we interviewed you, and then we all became friends.
Yeah.
I
think I just stalked you. I was like, I think you're a good person.
Yeah.
Let's.
Well, you guys were hilarious. And then we saw each other every once in a while. You came on my YouTube channel and taught Perry and I how to do face stuff, which obviously it's working for you.
It's clearly working for you too, my love.
I mean, I'm trying. And then I think I ran into you at church a couple times.
Yeah.
Church home, which is dope. I'm bummed it's not happening.
Yeah, thanks for saving a seat for me.
Yeah, that's right.
So many times. I was like, damn, I feel really special in church right now.
I get so lucky when you have like certain people saving those seats. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But so good to have you. You have a podcast called Almost 30, which is awesome and incredible and has like this amazing like cult following, which is like this cool movement of women. But I want to talk about, how old are you now?
33.
Okay, you're a year older than me. You're 87.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm 88.
Cool.
And when's your month?
September 14th.
That's right, a month from mine.
You're a Leo.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yes, obviously. Virgo, obviously. And okay, so, but you started this a long time ago.
Yeah.
What year?
4.5 years ago, 2016.
You were 29.
20, yeah.
28.
Like 28. Just about 28. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you and your friend, Krista
Williams, we met like, it was so weird. Like, so I had moved to LA from New York. I was a soul cycle instructor in New York.
That's right.
Which was like another odd job I had, but all of my odd jobs, and I'm sure you can relate, just had like a ton of purpose. I was like, looking back, I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Just building my toolbox and, relationships and confidence. And Soul Cycle was a major season of my life. And 3 months into teaching, they moved me to LA. They called me one night. They're like, we want you to open the studio. Will you move? Like now? And I didn't hesitate. And I just said yes. And that was like the few moments in my life, I can probably count it on two hands, where I just felt that like deep knowing. And 3 weeks later, I was living in LA. We met about a year into me being in LA, and were introduced because she was auditioning for Soul Cycle.
So 27, you moved to LA.
Yeah.
That's like the Saturn return. That's a huge.
That is my Saturn return moment.
Literally, like a phone call being like, you're moving across the country to a new city, knowing no one probably at that time.
Knowing no one out here, which was kind of like freeing. I was like, I kind of like this idea of being in a place where no one knows me, and also where I can just, I like being alone a lot. So while I love people, I do enjoy the autonomy and being able to kind of explore and experiment on my own. And so that was like my move to LA. I was like, we're just going to do this. Me, you and me. And,
hugely buffet.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I met Krista, and basically we were intersecting at our Saturn returns, and she was going through a lot of health stuff and just feeling like she didn't have a purpose in what she was doing in her corporate job. I was coming out of a long-term relationship where I thought he was the one. And I'm like, what is life? What am I supposed to be doing here? And so we were having these conversations, and like the depth of our conversations was so healing to me. And so she came to me one day. She's like, do you think we could start a podcast? And I was like, yeah, I'm always down to do like creative projects. I never thought it would become what it is today, but I was just always down. And yeah, 4.5 years later, it's quite the entity. It's like it's not she and I, it's definitely something much bigger, and we just we serve it. Yeah.
Well, so I try to like cater this conversations a lot to so many younger 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And so just people being so patient. Like I love any guest I have, I walk through like almost the whole 20s. Like, where were you at 20? And just giving these young people such perspective of like, slow down and you're okay. Like these 23-year-olds having these crises, like these midlife crises of like, what is my life, you know? And you getting that at 28. I moved to LA at 28 as well. Saturn return, like, or 27, 28. And it's just so much more. And even in that, like in the 27, 28 to approaching 30, there's so much more like moving pieces that is a shit show. Like it's so many like lives you live, and you look at your 25-year-old stuff, like I was a different human being, like a different life, right?
I don't know her. I mean, I love her, but it's completely different. But at the time you think like, you know yourself better than anyone. Yeah. And nothing will ever change from that point. Yeah.
And you'll have like total new group of friends in 5 years and like be a different person. Like I would have never. So, but I want to back up because the Soul Cycle instructor in New York, really unique. At 20, where were you at 20? You grew up where?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, just north of Philly, in a town called Newtown, just in like Bucks County. People know Bucks. For some reason, people know Bucks County. I'm like, how? They're like corn and theater by the river. I'm like, totally. So I grew up there, oldest of 4 kids. And I was, very lucky to feel super supported by my parents in whatever I wanted to do creatively.
Wow. That's huge.
I was really, really lucky in that sense. And I always wanted to be an actress. I always wanted to be performing in some capacity. And so I went to a high school where that was the main focus. And then went to college and studied theater and English. So at 20, I was at Boston College, and I was in a relationship. We started dating my sophomore year, and I had big dreams, but I also let that relationship come before any of those dreams. And so it really hindered my ability to focus, to be disciplined. And just, I lost myself a little bit. I tended to lose. I lost myself in a lot of relationships because I thought that's what it took to be in a relationship where you put that other person first. And so, at 20, I was dating who I thought would be like my person forever. And, it didn't turn out that way.
Different lifestyle, right? Different lifetime. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That first love.
I know.
And then, so you finished theater.
I finished at Boston College. I graduated, and then I moved home for 6 months actually. And I did that because I wanted to make a little money. I wanted to save that money. I
always tell people to do that. Yeah. Like young people, I'm like, if you have the chance to move home, like it's such a shameful thing, But if you have the chance to live at home for 6 months and work a dead end, like a dumb job, then travel for a year or a year and a half, like it's brilliant. I mean, don't ever feel like ashamed or insecure about that.
What's so hard now is I mean, we didn't even really have social media back then. We didn't. No, we didn't. We had like Facebook kind of halfway through college, but like we didn't have social media. So I wasn't on, Instagramming like, oh man, like my friends are like already at their jobs in New York and like doing their thing. Like I didn't have that comparison reel to be looking at every single day. So I went home. It wasn't like my first choice, but I knew that's what I had to do in order to save money to move to New York and also to get the experience bartending that I knew I would need in New York to be able to support my pursuit of acting during the day. So it was really purposeful, I think, because I was able to be home during a time when I think my family needed me the most. My grandfather suddenly got very sick and passed away in the time that I was home. And I was really able just to be there for my mom and just kind of be like an oak tree of sorts in the family. So I'm really grateful that I was home during that time. And I saved up enough money, moved to New York, and I mean... Theater
was the dream, though, and goal.
Theater was the dream.
That makes so much sense now because your characters on Instagram, your stories are so funny, and like you're singing, and then you're like doing characters, and it's so charismatic and hilarious, and I'm sure like people just love it because it's just entertaining. Have you got on TikTok yet? Are you on that app?
I'm on it, but I haven't really.
It's so confusing.
I don't know. I think the younger people are doing it really well, and
they're killing it.
I don't know.
I still haven't figured it out.
I don't want to add another thing to my list.
I know, exactly. Yeah, there's a whole. But anyway, I think I never put those things together. That acting was such a cool place for you. So you went to New York with this dream. I want to act. Be on Broadway or theater.
I think number one, I wanted to be a Broadway star.
Theater more than that. Okay, wow.
And then awesome. It kind of turned into, because on the road to becoming whatever you want to be, you kind of meet other offshoots of what you could be. So at one point I was traveling up to Boston every few weeks to shoot these, like, you remember those little people that used to walk onto websites? They're like, hi, welcome to
in front of a green screen. Yeah.
Total Gym.
Yeah.
And that was me in like hundreds of them. So like just on the way I was kind of, taking these odder jobs. But yeah, I was in classes, I was auditioning during the day, but I was bartending at night. I was working until 2 or 4 a.m. almost every night, not having the energy or the wherewithal to truly take care of myself in order to show up at these auditions in prime condition. And so it was a struggle. I definitely, made progress, but I really never quote unquote hit it and, made it in a
lot
sense.
Of pivoting, right? Like it's just a lot
of tons. And I think it's looking back, I'm like, wow, it's really cool to see all the pivots I made. But at the time it was painful because I'm like, no, I want this one thing. I need this one thing. I want to be on Broadway. And if I don't, what does that mean about me? Like I put so much of my value in that one singular vision rather than, just being having like a broader desire. And my desire is really to be able to express myself freely and be seen for that and inspire people to also do that themselves. Yeah. And I was able to do that in a lot of other ways, but because it wasn't Broadway, I was like, oh, I'm not there yet.
This tunnel vision. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like one of those things, if you sat down with your 22 or 23-year-old Lindsey, and was like, yeah, sweetheart, I get it. I know, but like, totally. What would you say to her?
Yeah, I mean, what would I say to her? I think I was putting so much pressure on myself to be what people dreamed I would be. So I had really supportive parents and I'm so lucky, but I also felt that pressure. And it was kind of like self-induced, but I just always thought of them. I'm like, wow, they've invested so much in my life and my school and all of this. And I just felt this pressure to make them proud, and I still want to make them proud, but
give yourself time.
Yeah, I would give myself time and also be a little less attached to the end goal. You know, I love the process of creating. And so I would say to her, you know, my time in New York, like, spend more time in class, spend more time experimenting rather than just having this like laser focus on this one thing. Like, maybe you'll discover that you love another aspect of performing or creating that you could also incorporate or, you know, put more time and love into. And so I think it's like keeping that like fierceness, but also having that flexibility.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I think exactly like that route of like, it is good to have that drive, but
For
then
sure.
a little bit more open-handed.
Yes, exactly.
And trying to figure out where to diversify your talents. And even I love people in theater that show up to just build sets and learn lighting. And you see those people that just do it all. And then they also have a dream of being on the stage, but they're just like, give me it all, you know? And then if something does fall through, I can do stage design or lighting. And theater is such a cool, unique world. But yeah, I think that pressure cooker, that like intensity we put on ourselves, just to hopefully have younger people be like, yo, it's a marathon, it's a long game. I love looking at actors that literally didn't get one role till they were like 40 or 50. Same. And me and my friends were talking about coming up on New Year's, we were having that conversation like, because we do the same. Even now, we still kind of have this intensity, but man, we're like, man, our 40-year-old self, like we literally went down this meditation and what is our 40-year-old self saying to us? And most of our heroes, when you look at the authors out there, either like the Brene Browns or any of them, you're like most of your hero authors literally like way like after 50, some of them. And so we're just like, what are we doing, you know? And so still hustling, still being creative, but definitely not getting so anxious and built up over.
And is it sustainable? Like how you're doing the thing now, like, is it sustainable? Do you want it for the long haul? If you do, like, let's pick apart your day to day and see like, is this sustainable? Like for me, working till 4 a.m. was not sustainable, you know, and just being very real about what's not working and how you can, just give yourself a little more grace, have a little bit more fun, and have a little bit more like rest and reflection. I think I was not reflective at all in my 20s. Yeah. Like I was not reflecting on the day to day or even like the year to year.
Yeah. Which is for me more normal, which is great. Yeah. Mental health, therapy. Agree. Like, yeah, we didn't have that back then. Yeah. Cause I started too, before Instagram was a thing, I was traveling the world, working with nonprofits and young people, and you know, social media has helped both of us, which is cool, but it's so cool that it wasn't the why we were doing it. Yeah. But then the mental, I look at my 22-year-old and 23-year-old stuff, like, dude, what are you doing,
what
bro?
were you doing?
What was I doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I got super lucky to start traveling when I was young, when I was 19, but still just the way I like carried it was just goofy American kid and the way I carried myself, or like the way I I did a podcast yesterday about ego and stuff. And I was like, man, I was talking about there's like a couple different egos. There's like your status ego. And then there's your spiritual ego and like your physical ego and all these things. But I just remember going to events when I was, probably 23, 24 with like this pressure and intensity and anxiety of what do I do? And just trying, really hard. And so, I think I was just, trying, and so and that's why mentorship is so important to me, because you do need that older person to just kind of sit you down and be like, yo, I believe in you and you're on the right path, but breathe, it's a marathon. It's a long, long game. But I think are you writing a book? I feel like you're going to write a book at one point, which
eventually,
is awesome. Yeah. Because even now, do you talk about your relationship you're in love.
Yeah.
Which is so exciting and awesome. I'm so excited for you. I remember when you announced it and all that stuff, it was amazing and exciting. And you're still obviously pursuing it, and it's long distance right now.
Yeah.
But it's so refreshing, and not only your career, at your later 20s, and then your love in your early 30s, or, beginning of your 30s is so refreshing, because it's like, everyone just like, yo, there's a different side of you leveling up, and you will find love later on, but you'll also have so much foundation in who you are and what you're doing that you don't have to question the love, and I'm in the same boat too, 32 and extremely single, and but then like I'm
always thinking about you. I'm like, who can I
Thanks. My mentor, well, it happened for me, a big change shift. Oops. Oh, it's on my computer. There you go. A big change shift was my mentor met his wife at 35.
Wow.
And knew immediately he was going to marry her. And he's an author and stuff. And I remember just that one pin was like, oh, like that's it. It opened up a whole new conversation.
Yes.
And that one pin was just like a whole window towards like a bar. So then I was like, oh, cool. I can wait till I'm 35, God. Mm-hmm. I was like, but after that, I'm gonna start doing my own thing. But I was like, but it was like definitely a milestone.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, what you're doing with that is so exciting, and it's just great. It's younger women, I mean younger people, but I think so great for younger women to see that cultural shift and just being like, whoa, these girls I look up to, these women I look up to, started late in their career, and even that, it's been like a hustle and drive, and you have to pivot within that success. But then even love, it's amazing. It's so great.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, so I knew Sean, my boyfriend, for 8 years.
8?
And so it's cool because he met me when I was mid-20s, and wow, it was just, I mean, to put it plainly, like, I didn't respect myself whatsoever, and I was definitely going after the guys who would not give me attention, would not make time for me, because that was easier for me. I looked better, and it meant that I really didn't have to like show up, truly. But it was destructive and not so good for me. But when I met him 8 years ago, I was like, wow, like, he's powerful. He is very direct and clear with me. You know, like, he told me way back when, like, I want to be with you. Like, it was just so clear, and it scared the crap out of me. My soul was like, hey, like the flutter of that, where you're just like, this is something, like, God was like, whoa. Like, it was being shown to me very early, but I was not ready to receive it. I was also like just not ready to receive myself and my own power.
Oh, totally.
So
you like run from it, right? You're just like, because you're leveling up the light and everything, and you're just like, okay, I don't want to. Yeah, it's intimidating.
Oh yeah, it's so intimidating. So it took, I never ever thought that we would be together.
Wow.
And so we reconnected randomly, and I had done just so much work and therapy and just different healing modalities that has really just brought me back to myself. And it was cool because when we did start dating, like, he just reflected back to me like all of that growth. And he could have been like, man, you hurt me so many times and like all this stuff, but he was just like, it's actually like, perfect God timing. Is so good. Wow. Like, we needed this time, and this is like how it's supposed to be. And he's grown so much too.
How old is he?
He's 31.
Oh, he's younger. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So wait a second. When he approached you a long time ago, he just knew, he just also like felt it in his heart. He just had a great foundation in who he was.
Yeah. He's really, really special. I feel like for as long as I've known him, he's always known who he was.
Wow.
And I just think he gets closer and closer to like just knowing the fullness of who he is, but he's really always known who he is. And so, I mean, I remember like one of our first dates was at Hillsong in New York, and it kind of freaked me out. I was like, we're going to church, and like, we're going to church. You know, I grown up, like, my mom would take us to different churches. I grew up going to a Catholic school. So I was kind of like, I'm over church. Like, totally. You know, after you go to Catholic school, you're like, no, like, this isn't what. And it was really powerful. I was like, and again, that feeling of that flutter, like, whoa, this is God talking. And I was just terrified. I was like, I don't know. I can't be in this right now. Like, I need to, drink my sorrows away and like party and all those things. But yeah, I mean, it's been incredibly powerful to be with someone who knew me way back then and like just has seen and continues to witness my growth. And it's been healing for me because I've always been so afraid to like really show someone all of who I am, because there are parts of me that I'm like, ugh, I'm still working on. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it's terrifying.
You're like, you feel like you're being found out, and it's just like icky.
Just being like, you won't love me if you know. Yes. Like, it's just like, that's just it.
Oh, it's like it's a very real, like primal feeling. And for him to like see that and be like, I'm not going anywhere. And I love that about you. I'm like, huh? But it's so healing.
You're like, well, I got something better. And then you say, then you're like, no. You're like, okay, you really want to hate me? You're going to run the other way? And then you tell him, it's just like, yeah, I think that, wow. I haven't met him yet, but that seems incredible. And what a powerful, compassionate, like foundation that is. But dang, that's incredible.
Thank you.
And when did you guys make it official? What month and year?
So October 2019 is when we reconnected. And it's funny because I'll say we started dating October 2019. He'll say December 2019. I was so sure. And he was in shock. He's like, the person I've always wanted to be with is like back in my life. Like, what is happening? And then,
wow.
And he had just gotten out of a relationship a month prior. And so he was like, I don't know if I'm like ready to jump back into a relationship, and it just is a lot, like it's you. And I was like, okay, but we're gonna be together, and you do whatever you have to do. If you need time, like all good. And it's weird because I had never been that sure about something like that, especially with him. And so it was really comforting to him because he didn't feel like the pressure, but he just felt seen and respected in terms of like where he was. And yeah, he came to a bunch of our tour stops and a bunch of shows, and we would like travel back and forth, and started dating officially, I guess, December. So yeah, it's been over a year, and I'm gonna move to New York. We're gonna be
in a couple months
together.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah, it's definitely God just kind of showing off of just like the magic in just staying true to your compass, and just, I think, remaining in that faith, that position of like surrender
completely,
and just being, and God just being like, has such a sense of humor. Like who, like the fact that he was single at the time that you were like open to it. It's just such a metaphysical thing that we literally don't understand. And you're like, man, God, you're funny. Like, so funny. and even for him, I bet he's like, just, praying to God and just on his knees being like, whoa, God, like you just freaking got a sense of humor. That's amazing. I love that. And so now, dang, that's incredible. So now I want the viewers to know, but you do podcast full time with like one of your best friends.
Yeah.
And it was obviously beginning in the 27-28, this hustle of creating it for fun, creative project. You're still a SoulCycle instructor. Did you do the SoulCycle in Santa Monica?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why everyone knew you. I kind of remember like that connection too. Oh, you were actually, when I interviewed you, weren't you still teaching there?
Yes.
Yeah. So I interviewed you for this women's empowerment thing, which means that your podcast at that time was already doing well.
Yeah.
And I remember you were still working so you were still side hustling, or the podcast was side hustle, whatever one, probably the SoulCycle, but it was like, it's so crazy to think that you're already successful in something, but you still got a side hustle. You still got to like figure out how to,
Or, well, a lot of, and we talk to a lot of like budding entrepreneurs or people that have something that they want to create and put out into the world. And so many of them are, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are those people where you're like, I just want to get out of this like job. Yeah, there's definitely parts of what I do that I don't always love to do. But to your point again, it's like the service. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I have to revisit that a lot because I can get so wrapped up in like what I'm not good at, like how I didn't learn, the art of business because I was never in a corporate setting and all these things. But I just always go back to like, I'm here to like serve people and really call people into, knowing themselves better, supporting them in their evolution, and also just like having a really good time doing it, because I think sometimes we forget to have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think your podcast is so fun and playful too, and you guys just do a great job of just being real, you know, it's not all just cut this and, you know, cut and dry, but reminding ourselves, remembering that you can just, me and you cut from the same cloth, just like our humor on Instagram. And we just like, sometimes our podcast episodes are deep, or sometimes we talk about this kind of stuff, but man, at the end of the day, play and humor and childlike ability is really what softens people's hearts and makes us so much more connected, because we don't take ourselves serious. And when we're over serious, we just like are black and white, and we just need to remember to do that. And that part of the journey and the adventure is with these like entrepreneurship or creating this kind of stuff is like the you have to be funny with it. You have to laugh at your problems, and you have to like have a good time doing it. And that's just it. Yeah, there is so much that goes unseen with you guys and your team while you're building this for the last years. And I know you guys hosted massive events and did a whole tour. There's so much unseen, and we definitely, I think people come into it and be like, whoa, this is all you guys do for this, like one episode or this like one project, and you're like, there's like so many moving pieces. And
have you found it hard, you know, on the play piece with everything that's gone on in the last year, especially just everything that's been so unprecedented? Like, have you found it difficult to show up and be you, who is so positive and playful? I know you have your highs and lows, but like, does that ever feel, I don't know, just like hard to do in a time that like feels very scary, fear-filled, all these things? Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I think the climate of culture and everything that goes on with intense situations, but sometimes, you know, a lot of people looked at it too, that it's like sometimes the outlet is we do need the humor to it, and we do need like the softness of it, and not taking things too serious and getting so caught up in it. And I've taken my, you know, I always have discernment when I can, but then I'm also just like, if I'm having a good day and I'm dancing, I'm going to definitely like express that. But then, a lot of days too, my heart is really heavy and breaking for the divide and for all this stuff and trying to navigate it, or people that are, you know, like for me, it is a tough balance. But then like when I'm posting a video of me dancing or having fun, and then I'm like, man, what if someone depressed is watching this? Are they going to look at it as like a sign of, why can't I feel that way? Or are they going to look at a sign of like, I can feel that way? Or, so I'm always trying to tell both sides. I'm always being like, yo, my dark seasons are dark, especially like, I don't know how it is for you, but like my highs are really high, but my lows are really low. And a lot of people kind of ride the wave of highs and lows, but it's like pretty close to the surface. But the higher you go, the lower you're going to go. And that's just, I don't know if that's for everyone. I'm pretty sure that's what it feels like, because we're such feelers. And those highs have so much potent like chemicals in your brain, and like you can't always be high. And just realizing that's why, you know, the dance is so intense. And when you live in a really intentional, mindful mindset, that you're gonna have those too, because you feel so much joy, but then you also, your heart breaks in like really dark ways. And you guys, I'm sure your audience sends you their stories about probably divorce or women, like women's like whatever it might women go through, which is a lot. But I'm sure you guys get tons of stories on this stuff, and you guys wear that. You know, sometimes you carry that and you're like, okay, this is also fuel to keep going, that women need this message and this transparency in relationships. But then, man, sometimes it's like crying, you know, and you're just like, man, this is painful. Like no one should go through that kind of stuff. But then, it just gets you right back up to fuel the fire and your purpose, right? And that's why it's like so powerful. And we need to think bigger than ourselves. Because even when, I think maybe if you're having a low day, which is great to feel low and have those days too, like you need to acknowledge it, but to be like, and then you read a message being like, yo, your podcast episode changed my life. And you're just like, whoa, like this isn't about me. And I'm going to honor my emotions, but like, this is something bigger going on. Like, you know,
and we always get those messages on the days that we need them the most.
Crazy, you know? Right? Yeah. Those God winks.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Those moments of affirmation where you're just like, okay, I'm on the right path. Cause I mean, the times I'm sure you guys and me and other people that are in this realm that want to throw in, like, you know, like kind of throw it, like, what is it, the term?
Throwing the towel.
Yeah. And just be like, why am I doing so much? Like I could get a corporate job. I could get a normal job. I could marry this person that like it would work out, and I could do all these things. But then you get those moments and you're like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Because it seems so amazing to make a podcast with your best friend and do it full time, but then, and some amazing what I do too, but it's like, it is exhausting sometimes. And the passion is what fuels it, and the purpose is what like sustains it.
And I think you're one of those people like me. I'm curious what your human design is, but I'm a manifesting generator. And, you know, one of the things that we're here to do is to show people what's possible, in the sense that like you don't need to do one thing. You can explore and that's not for everyone, but I'm someone who is multi-passionate, and I can see myself having like multiple different careers in my lifetime, and maybe finding purpose in motherhood in a season of my life, and finding purpose in almost 30, and like just in music, like it could just, I think it's hard because what I see is mostly like linear careers. And I'm like, well, that is how you make it, and that is how you get guaranteed stability and financial abundance and all this stuff. But it's not what I'm here to do, So I see you as someone like that where, there's not just one path. There is like a very tangible, felt heart and purpose in everything you do. But
yeah, it comes in seasons. I think I try to, or chapters, and people determine in different ways, but I always talk about seasons. Like, hey, I tell these young people, like I mentor, it's like, hey, if you have to go live at home for 6 months, that's just it's not the rest of your life. Like, it's a season of your life. Yeah. Take it as a chunk, as you're biting off a piece, and you have no idea who you're going to meet at home. Like what you were saying, who you're going to meet, what video you're going to watch, and you're going to learn something, how to knit. Like, it's insane. Obviously, the amount of information we can learn online nowadays is mind bending, and how we can connect with people across the world. It's insane to think. I mean, when I had that, we had a website called Couchsurfer. It was really sketch. It was couchsurfer.org. And it was when you were traveling, you can find people's couches to sleep on.
Okay.
Yeah. But back in the day, that's how you found people traveling. And now it's a hashtag or anything of Facebook page. And so, but back in the day, there was no Instagram. It was couchsurfer.org. And it was like, it was crazy. But, I remember back in the day too, when I was traveling the world with these students, I was taking students around the world, you would type in passion or inspiration or motivation in YouTube and nothing would come up. There was literally nothing on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah. Cause I'm trying to find, I had all these college students and I'm like motivational speech and nothing would be on YouTube. And I'm like, dang, I wish there was like some sort of motivational video or passion video on YouTube. And there wasn't. And it was crazy to think about, but I remember like there wasn't anything like that. And so, nowadays, obviously it's at our fingertips, but basically living in those seasons of like, even if you go live in Australia for a year, you can't give this 5-year plan and 10-year plan are great, but you have no idea what you're going to happen in Australia. So just take that chunk for what it is. Mm-hmm. And at that year mark, you have no idea the doors and the connections. So don't even worry about it afterwards. And obviously we want to control everything and understand everything. And we have a lot of pressure from usually culture or ourselves or our family. Well, actually it usually comes from our family that we have it on ourselves. But if we are honest with ourselves, there's not much, that much. But basically just taking things in seasons and chunks and being like, yo, go live in LA for 6 months and see what happens at the end and you'll be surprised. But yeah, that's kind of the same thing for me. I'm not going to hold on anything too tight and just realize, yeah, in 5 years I could be doing none of this, and who knows? But my compass is always pointing. How do I serve? How do I love people? How do I have conversations? This kind of stuff. And I think my compass was always going the right direction. At one point, at 25 or 26, I was taking out trash on like commercial shoots and movie shoots, and it was part of the thing. Wow, I was still traveling the world doing videos. Like one time I was taking out trash on this commercial shoot in Utah, and they were like, "Why does the trash guy have more Instagram followers than the models?" And they were like having that conversation. It was really funny. There was like these 3 model guys and it was like crazy. And it was like, I was so like beautiful and humbling in the sense of like, hell yeah. Like I'm still doing it. Yes. This doesn't define me. This 2 weeks is taking out trash or making food for these commercials. But my compass was always going the right direction. So I just knew I had to spend seasons or weeks hustling for money. And then I would go travel for nonprofits. Love that. So yeah, it's quite a journey. And yeah, same thing with you guys. And it's just like, you're going to figure it out as you go. Moving to New York, being bi-coastal with your best friend and your partner of this company and this movement you built. And you're like, hey, we don't know the ins and outs yet, but we're going to figure it out. And we just know that it's aligned and we know our community is going to support us regardless. So it's great.
In those moments where I'm like, oh shoot, like how is this going to work? I just look back and I'm like, everything else has worked out. Truly, it really has always worked out. And I just feel like, having faith is like, and it's something that I've revisited later in life. Again, that like church thing freaked me out. I was like, I'm out. And then really it was funny, around the time that I reconnected with Sean was when I really reconnected with my faith. And then he is so faith-filled, and like, so our relationship just adds to just that part of my life. And yeah, I just feel so taken care of.
Yeah, this surrender. It's like the strongest stance, like in the faith, like God world is like literally your strongest stance is surrender, and in cultural world it's weakness, right? And so I love that word surrender, and obviously everyone learned what that word meant in 2020 because we literally had to surrender it all. We either delve into like more unhealthy habits or things, or we literally dealt with our shit and was like, okay, what am I doing with my time? Like nothing's guaranteed. My job's not guaranteed. Education, nothing. So what do I really have to focus on? What matters? And where do I serve? Where do I show up? Where do I create from an authentic place? And so, yeah, it's a journey. Powerful. It is. Yeah. And faith, I always say like the opposite of faith is sight. And our cultural is we just need so much sight and understanding. And faith is really just like no sight, just walking blindly into situations or relationships or things with just that beautiful spiritual side of it. And so that's amazing. Well, we're coming up on like an hour almost. We're at like 50 minutes, but I definitely am excited for your next season and journey. And I hope people listening, that young people listening, just like, got a glimpse of, just like, and even if you are 30 and you're still trying to navigate it. Like there's still so much time and beauty in that. And even though if this is the funny part, so you're, moving to New York and your job and I'm doing my thing, we still have uncertainty. Like you just said, you're going to New York with this relationship and with your job and you're still uncertain. So it isn't that you're 30 right now listening and you're uncertain and you feel like you're comparing to us. We still don't know what the hell we're doing. And we're still figuring it out, but I just hope you can take a leap of faith on yourself of whatever is bottling up inside your chest, and trying to just like surrender to it more and know that no one has it figured out.
No one.
You're either sacrificing time and money or energy or purpose or passions. Like everyone's figuring out, but there is no right way. And it's just seeing examples and getting glimpses of affirmation and hope and surrounding yourself with the right people and conversations and questions and leaning into that discomfort is huge.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say just on that piece is I wish I would have known when I was in my 20s that I deserved the discipline. I feel like so often I was really afraid to actually be disciplined with myself, whether it was just disciplined in my faith, whether it was disciplined in learning a new skill, but like we want things so quickly and we don't realize that it takes time and discipline. And discipline, the word to me felt like sacrifice and restriction and like not creative, but it's actually, for me, something I'm revisiting now is like providing me so much more creativity, so much more freedom, so much more inspiration, and also just building trust in myself, building more confidence. So, your listeners, if you're in your, late teens, early 20s, it's like you deserve to commit yourself to that discipline for whatever you want to do. It might just be discipline to like love people more. Like it doesn't have to be towards your career, quote unquote. It's like, we can just like be super disciplined in the way we show up for people. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
That's awesome. Yeah, discipline's great. There's a verse in the Bible I read a long time ago, and it was like, I don't remember where it was, but it was something like, a man who doesn't love discipline is stupid.
Oh
yeah.
Excuse me.
And I laughed. I don't know obviously what version is a dum-dum, but it was some sort of translation to that, and it was I gotta look for it, but it was so funny. I remember laughing, be like, wow, that's so powerful. This was like 8 years ago. I was traveling somewhere and a friend shared that with me, and I remember just laughing, be like, that's so unique.
That's hilarious.
Because discipline and structure, certain things like that, or sacrifice is a big one. But I love that. Thanks so much. So, and what episode are you guys on right now?
Oh my Lord. 400 almost?
Oh my god.
We're like 396 or something. 400.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Almost 400.
It's been a ride, but it's good. So anyone, we talk about anything and everything as far as like spirituality. We talk about hormones. We talk about aliens. We talk about God. We talk about relationships, really anything. And the point is to support you, as you evolve. And we're not here to like tell people how to think or what to think or what to believe. It's hopefully just reminding you that you already know, and just reminding you of that.
Yeah. And your tribe, so you have like a membership, you have like a whole, your events were huge, like your whole tribe's all around the world, I'm guessing too, right?
Yeah, they're all over the world, and we had to just kind of had to evolve as the world evolved, because we couldn't see people in person over the last year. So we were on a world tour. And then this past year, we brought everything online, and it really gave us the time and inspiration to create our membership. So that's a place where people can go to get resources, one-on-one connection with us, workshops, extra episodes, and just community. I mean, if I was in my 20s and had other people who were also doing like deep inner work to lean on and just connect with, I mean, wow.
It's crazy. People are hungry for it too.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So it's a really special place. So yeah, that's almost30.com/membership. You can find more info, but yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
You're the best.
Love you tons. I'm so excited for your move, and we always try to hang out and meet up too, and I'm glad it worked out this way.
Me too.
Because now we got to catch up as well.
Me too.
But yeah, y'all, so check out Almost 30 and what they're doing and their mission, their movement. Their website's incredible. The podcast, like yeah, you can literally click any episode and it's going to be entertaining and informational and educational. And there's almost 400 of them. So you have a huge plethora to catch up on. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in or watching. And I'm so stoked for y'all to give us feedback on this one. Take care and peace.